Welcome back to the channel. I am really glad you're here because today I'm going to be connecting some work lights to my ROPS provided by Artillian. And there are a lot of ways you can connect it, so this is not a how-to video, but I'm going to try and do this as easy as possible. So even if you have basic tools and basic skills, you should be able to do this too. Now these are ROPS mountable work lights, which means that they are specifically made for equipment with rollover protection structures. Doesn't mean you couldn't mount them on other pieces of equipment, but it's really nice because they include a square U-bolt that makes this easy to directly bolt right onto your ROPS. So we'll do that first and then we'll wire them up. In addition to the work lights, Artillian include a really generous amount of wire loom, wire ties, the mounting brackets for the lights, and a couple switches, as well as fuses and connectors. So you have a lot of options to connect this to your particular application. There are a lot of mounting options here with these lights because really you can mount them anywhere on the ROPS. If you want to mount them below the fold so that when you fold your ROPS they won't be affected, you can do that. You can mount them to the inside if you wanted to. You just have to watch for shadows and whatnot. But I'm going to mount them to the top here above the fold and on the outside because I think that's going to give me the best lighting for shining over the front end loader or over the equipment on the back. So first we'll simply mount this and I'll show you how that's done. This really couldn't be much easier. You just get the square U-bolt for your ROPS, slide it over, slide the light into place. It's slotted so you can rotate it to make it level. And then throw a couple of nuts on and take a 1/2 inch wrench or ratchet or 13 millimeter and just tighten it up. I'll leave them a little loose so I can slide it into place. Did you catch that? That's one of the features of these work lights, is that not only are they adjustable with a friction adjustment here, but by pulling the light out, you can rotate it to the back, you can rotate it to the front, and it's almost infinitely adjustable. But at 1/8 of an inch, there's a notch there with teeth. And you can move it about 1/8 of an inch each time. So you could point it straight down if you're working on your tire or something like that. You can turn it, face it back for attaching your implements. And most of the time, of course, they'll be facing forward for using as, for me, additional headlights because the headlights don't really work well when you have a front end loader because the loader blocks the headlights. So that's where they're going to be most of the time. So now let's mount the other side and then we'll hook up the wiring. Oh, it landed on top of the tire. Lucky! Nylock bolts or nylock nuts are great because they don't come loose, but they're a little bit of a pain because you have to use a wrench the entire way putting them on. First world problem, I know. It's like they were made for it. Nice. There are countless ways that you can wire this up to your piece of equipment. You can run a hot wire directly to your battery and use the included fuse. Make sure you put the fuse as close to the battery as possible, and then you run the wire back along with the ground wire and use the included switches which mount directly to each light. Or you could mount your own switch, maybe in the dash, have a dash mounted switch. Or what I'm going to do, I'm still going to use the factory switches so that I can turn these off if I want to, but I'm going to tie them in to my tail lights so that when I turn my headlights on, these will come on with the headlights. So that's how I'm going to do it. You can do it however it works best for you. Underneath my left fender here, it's pretty easy to see the wires going into the tail light there. So I'm just going to take my trusty test light, take the alligator clamp, which is the negative side, find a good hunk of metal on the frame to hook it to, and then you can either pull off these wires. Now I do know that the black one is the ground. I can see that going up to the housing. So I've got a yellow and a green. So one of them is the running light, and one of them is the blinker. We certainly don't want to hook those work lights to the blinker because that would be a pain, a little annoying. So I'm just gonna take this sharp edge and stick it through the insulation there. And my red light is on here. And then I'll stick the green one just to see. And it's blinking. So I know that the green one is the blinker and the yellow one is the running light. So the yellow one's the one we're going to tie into. I know that I just created a penetration here, and you can use weatherproof connectors and shrink wrap and all that good stuff, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to put in some quick connectors and I'll wrap it with some tape to help seal it up. This tractor really doesn't get used in the weather a whole lot, and I think just wrapping this will be more than sufficient. Now obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, but once you connect these wires, the light is not going to rotate 360 degrees because you would just wrap the wire around it. So you want to make sure that you have enough slack in the wire to give you enough room to rotate at least 180 degrees. And you also want to make sure you have enough slack so that if you do fold your ROPS, it's not going to pull or bind the wire. So we'll take some of the negative, some of the positive, we'll run it down through the wire loom and just leave it tight enough, but yet enough slack so that it can be, as they say, maneuverable. That's what they say, don't they? Somebody says that. I just did. All right. Well, let's do that. There's a generous amount of wire included, so I'm just going to run these two wires, one black, one red, run them up here. Just going to tuck them in for now. Give myself plenty of slack. And I'll leave those hanging there. I'll clean the top up first and work my way down and then tie things in at the end. So I'll just leave these wires nice and long for now. I'm going to hook this switch up first, which is just a simple break in the wire. Wiring a switch into a 12-volt system is super easy. Generally with 12-volt systems, red is your hot wire and black is your ground wire. And you always want to switch your hot wire, you don't want to switch your ground wire. So basically, if we connected these two wires together, the power line and the light, you would have light all the time. So simply, a switch just breaks that connection. So with that, you simply connect one end of the switch into the light. I just connected it to the black, into the red side of the light. And then we'll put a connector on the power line and connect that to the other end of the switch, and that will give us the on-off capability. There's our switch, and then we'll just connect the ground directly with a bullet connector. Maybe there's a trick to this. I don't know. I think there is. I think if you just slide it through somehow. I don't know. It's a short piece. Doesn't matter. I'll mess with this. Yep, could go either way. All right. Cut that off there. There, again, are lots of different ways to connect these. I'm going to just use one of these connectors that connects in a straight wire into an end. I don't know what they're called, but they slide over the straight wire just like that. And then the end wire goes in just like that. You don't even have to splice it or strip it. Just like that. Then you just crimp it shut. Like that. And close the little cap to protect it. And that's it. Now the ground wire can really run anywhere to the frame or to a nut or bolt somewhere, so it doesn't have to go right under here. So I'll find a good spot for that and connect that. All right, let's give it a try. Key on, lights on. Nice. And then if I want to turn it off from here, for instance, if I'm using my headlights for any weird reason and I don't want this on, I can use the switch on the light itself. Neat. Well, now all I have to do is connect the right side the same way I did the left side. You don't need to watch that. So why don't we do a transition, like a long dissolve to replicate the passing of time. And then when the dissolve is finished, I'm into the next scene, I'll have completed the project. Kind of reminds me of a story about this guy who was climbing a mountain a long time ago. Well, look at that. That is nice. And again, what is so nice about these lights is that they adjust in and out just by hand, but they also rotate front to back just by pulling out and rotating. So if you're working on your equipment in the back, you can rotate and have a work light behind you. Auxiliary lighting in front of you. Again, I've got them wired up to the headlights so they come on with the headlights, but if I want to turn them off, I can just hit the switch on the light itself. That is a nice addition, wouldn't you say? Look, if you think these are right for you, check out Artillian.com and pick a set up for yourself. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.